If you're not using Shiny modules, then you're not using Shiny correctly. This sounds like a hard thing to say, but I think it is true. You see a lot of people treat Shiny modules like it's this super advanced, super hard concept. But to me, it is actually something that will keep you sane as you build larger apps. So that is why in today's video, I will break down how they work so that you can modularize your apps and build really great apps using Shiny modules. So let's dive in. In my R script, I brought you a simple dummy app that I built for this demo here. Let's check out how it looks and then I explain every part. Basically, it's a really boring app that shows you some informations about two data sets, namely the iris dataset and the Parma penguins dataset. And if you look into the UI code for this, you see that we have a verbatim text output that creates this first text block, and then we have a second verbatim text output that creates this second output here. I think I've just pronounced it verbatim instead of verbatim, but whatever, let's just go with this. You know what I mean, we have these two outputs here. And on the server function, we have the corresponding render functions that are called render print. And in here, we use from the glue package, the glue function to assemble the text that we see here, where we use the datasets iris and penguins as placeholders inside of the code that we execute here. So all in all, it's not super exciting, but we have duplicate code here. You see, we have almost the exact same code here and here, except for the fact that we're using different IDs and we're using different data sets. But other than that, everything is the same. But it can be kind of hard at first to figure out how to generalize this logic here, because there's also an associated part in the UI function that you'd have to generalize too. And this is where Shiny modules come in. They do exactly that. They allow you to create reusable components that consist out of UI and server. So what we want to do here is to create a module that has a UI that consists out of one verbatim text output and one render print. And inside of this module code, we'll just use a variable called dataset, and this dataset variable can be filled with either iris, penguins, or some other dataset. And then we can reuse this code chunk over and over again, and we don't have to stress about a thing, and it just works. In a contrived example like this might feel like overkill, but I promise you, in a real world Shiny app, you need these kind of modules because they make your life much easier, because you can separate different parts of your app really well with these modules. So how do we create one now? So now what we have to do is to create a module skeleton first, and it consists just like an app out of a UI component and a server component. And what you can do here is to just throw in a skeleton that looks like this. I've just thrown this in here. You don't have to worry about all the parts for now. Let's just get a working knowledge of this first. Basically, a module consists out of two functions that both have an ID argument, and then inside of the UI part you have a tag list, which you can think of as just the placeholders for all UI elements of your module. And we've said that a module is supposed to consist out of one verbatim text output, and since we want to make this sort of generalizable, let's just call this data here. We don't need that A, that B, that C, and so on, because we can handle this differently later on. And for the server function, we can do the exact same thing. We can stick this into the most inner function that has this input output session, and we really don't have to worry about this module server stuff that is wrapped around this. Just stick your server logic that you want to use into this inner function, and then you're good to go. Of course, make sure that if you replace IDs, you will have to also replace the IDs in there. And now there's one specialty that we have to take care of. Namely, we have to make sure that this ID here is wrapped into the so-called NS call. The reason why this is there is because in Shiny, you always want to make sure that your IDs are unique. And if you were to call all your verbatim text output IDs data and not something else, then Shiny would complain and it wouldn't work. So that's why this NS function makes sure to prefix it by the ID that you specify for your module. And the magic behind modules makes sure that inside of the server code, you can just use the ID that you specified inside the NS call. And with that, you're ready to use your module. So let's try this. Let's stick our text UI UI into our app here. Let's just get rid of this for now. And then let's also clean out the server code here. And instead, let's throw in the text server. And in there, we have to use the same ID as before. And now if we wanted to reuse this component, or before we do that, let's try to render this first. And then we see that we have one of these outputs because we have used this module only once, but we could technically use it once again. Let's throw in that B, and let's also throw in that B here as well. Make sure to put in a comma in here. And now if you re-execute this, you see that now you have two components, and you could repeat the same game a couple of times. Let's use C and D, and here we just throw in C and D as well. And this works magically. Now we have our output, even though it is still always the same. We will fix that in a second, but still fundamentally we have thrown in 4 times the same or very similar UI and server components, and our app code is really compact. And fundamentally that's because we have abstracted a bit of the logic into our module. And the nice thing about this is that now this is really scalable. So you can create an app by sticking together a bunch of very complicated modules. But as you've seen just a few seconds ago, you can also just create an app using one module. And this gives you the power to test different parts of your app separately when everything is modularized. So if something isn't working, just create a dummy app that has only this module in there and then debug until it's ready and then stick everything back together. So I can't stress how powerful this is. All right, so now we have modules, but they kind of always show the same thing. Let's change that. All we have to do is to go into our server function and notice, okay, where we'd like to use the different data set is in here. So we make sure that our module function is dependent on another argument that we call, let's say, data set. And then we can use this argument in here as a variable. And then what we have to do here is to just specify data sets. So here we could specify iris. Here we could say, let's do Parma penguins. Here from ggplot, let's use the diamonds data set. And what other data set is there? Cars. There's also always cars. So now if we re-execute this, we see that we have different numbers in here now. And since we're always using the name iris here, what we could do instead is to just either take this out or introduce another variable. Let's call it name. Maybe let's make data name. And then let's just use this in here. And then we can specify other names here. Let's call this iris. This one here is Parma penguins. This one here is diamonds. And this one here is cars. Now if we re-execute this, we see that we have also specified the naming here. We now know how Shiny modules work, but we still have to figure out one crucial thing, and that is how to make modules communicate among each other and with the app. You see, it's not always straightforward to share information between all of these parts, so that's why I'm showing you how to do this. But before I do that, let me mention that Shiny brings you into the world of web development, which is a huge topic. And it is really hard to cover such a huge topic without doing an extensive curriculum that I couldn't possibly cover here on YouTube. So that's why here on YouTube I will release more videos that show you bits and pieces. But if you're ever looking for a full-fledged curriculum on how to learn Shiny, then I know that my friends over at ATHLYTICZ have created just the right Shiny course for you. It is a massive curriculum that teaches you everything you need to know, from the basics to how to use modules, to how to use frameworks like Golem, or how to use other web dev technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I know that Verle, the creator behind this course, has put in a whole lot of work, so I'm sure that you will get so much value out of this course. If you're interested in that course, make sure to use my promo code RAP10 to get 10% off the Shiny or any other data science course from ATHLYTICZ. And now with all of that said, let's get back to the video. So here I've built a little app that is supposed to have a different chart depending on what is selected here. As you can see here right now, it is always using a bar chart. And the reason why that happens is that if we look into the UI and the server of this, we see that our UI is just the first select input. This is the stuff that we see basically here. And then we have a plot module. And the corresponding server function for this plot module uses the same ID. And then it uses a second argument that that is supposed to take what is inside of this dropdown here. But right now I have hard-coded this, so there cannot be any interaction at all. And before I show you how to fix this, let's check out how this plot module works. Really, what we have is inside of the UI module, or the UI part of this module, is a plot output with the ID plot, and then this output is rendered using the render plot function inside of the server of this module. And really the only thing that I want to check is, well, if my drop-down choice is bar, then use this code to create a bar chart, and in all the other cases use a code that looks like this, and then what is returned is just this plot with a theme applied to this. So that's kind of the code logic of all of this here. So since this second argument drop-down choice is currently hard-coded to bar, it makes sense that nothing works. So let's try to instead stick in not bar, but instead let's use an input and then stick in the drop-down ID here. So now if we re-render this, we see that, okay, we have once again our bar chart, but now if we switch to box plot, then nothing actually changes. And what we could do here to try to make this work is to maybe wrap this into an observer. So now if we re-execute this, then still nothing is happening. The real problem here is that the code inside of the plot server treats this like static code and therefore never realizes that possibly this thing in a drop-down choice, it has updated. So that's why we have to figure out a way to tell it, hey, this code can change, or at least this argument can change, so your output should also change accordingly. So that's why instead of using an observer here, let's get rid of that. Let's try to create a reactive instead. Let's call it drop-down choice, and this will just be a reactive that wraps this input here, and then we stick this reactive into our server. And now if we re-execute this, we see that right now we immediately get an error. And the reason why this happens is because our code here thinks it will get a string that will just output bar. But right now we have passed a reactive into this, so we also need to make sure our code can handle reactives. So that's why we use these parentheses here to call the reactive to get the actual value. And now if we re-execute this, we see that things actually update. So here really reactives are the way to share information between modules or the app in general. And in these kinds of situations, I actually like to not use reactives, but instead use reactive values instead. So usually I have a list called shared data, and I have this as a reactive values list. And then if I want to make sure that some value inside of this updates as input dropdown updates, I could say, okay, this should be input dropdown, and more specifically shared data drop-down choice will be the input, and then I don't need that stuff anymore. And then all of my modules could just use this shared data list, and all I have to make sure of is that inside of my code I can make all of this into shared data, and I know that shared data drop-down choice, then I don't need the parentheses anymore. Then I see that everything still works like before. And with this reactive values list, you could stick it into more modules, and whenever one module changes a value inside of this list, say a different value would override drop-down choice, then this information is transferred to all the other modules, and if they use this particular field from this list, then they will update too. So that's, in my opinion, a really neat way to share information between reactives. And the reason why I like to use this particular thing is because this really here is like a list. For example, you could test things out by, let's just comment this and then say shared data is a list that has drop-down choice where it is set to bar. And now if you re-execute this code, then you see that this code still works, your app still renders. So that way you could, of course the interactivity doesn't work anymore here, but at least the data itself, the data structure itself works and your code works fine. That's often helpful when you need to figure out why your Shiny app isn't working with all of the reactivity present. Instead, you can just throw in a list of hard-coded values. So that's usually what I like to do. Nice. With that, you should be able to get started with modules. Let me know if this video helped you to untangle the mystery of Shiny modules. If you want to learn more about Shiny, make sure to subscribe, as I'm going to put out more videos like this. And also don't forget about the ATHLYTICZ courses, which are a great resource for all kinds of data science topics. And now, with all of that said, I say thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.